When my boyfriend pressed the wrong elevator button for the 99th time, going to my friend Jade's floor instead of mine, he looked at me accusingly. Why didn't you remind me? Well, since we're already at Jade's door, might as well help her change that light bulb. I froze. Ever since Jade moved to the floor above mine a year ago, my boyfriend had been pressing the wrong floor button every single time. Once, when I had a high fever, he delivered medicine to Jade's apartment instead because she had menstrual cramps. Another time he was supposed to meet me for a movie, but he delivered the tickets to Jade's place. Even on my birthday he showed up at Jade's door carrying my cake. And now, watching him walk into my best friend's apartment without looking back, I coldly pressed the elevator close button. He had forgotten. Today was the day my lease expired. Today was the day I was moving out. Since he loved going to Jade's place so much, he could stop coming to mine altogether. When I went downstairs, the moving company had already arrived. Miss Winters will start moving now. I nodded. My phone buzzed. A message from Ethan Lucas. Where did you go? Don't wander off. This sudden show of concern made my fingers tremble slightly. But the moment I opened the chat, his next message popped up. Go downstairs to the store and buy me a wrench. Jade doesn't have one here. I stared at his message for several seconds, so he hadn't suddenly noticed I wasn't following behind him. He only realized I wasn't by his side because he needed me to do something for him. Scrolling up through our chat history, every single message was related to Jade Morgan. Give Jade that skincare set your coworker brought you from France. I'll buy you a different one. Jade mentioned wanting Japanese food last time. Let's go after you get off work today. I already made a reservation. Ethan's messages to me were always declarative statements. He had already decided. He never thought to ask for my opinion. The most recent message before these was from that rainy day when I asked if he could pick me up. He said, I'm already home. Just take a cab back yourself. But the next second, Jade posted on her social media, a tilted umbrella sheltering her as she got into the passenger seat. Almost got trapped in the rain. Lucky someone came to my rescue. I recognized that car interior all too well. I used to think that since he was my boyfriend and Jade was my best friend, I should be happy they got along well. But my repeated compromises only made Ethan worse. This time I didn't reply. As I was packing in my room, Ethan sent another message. Why aren't you back yet? Jade says she wants French food. I'm taking her there first. Come meet us later. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. We'd make plans to eat together. But when I was late because of work or traffic, all that was left for me were cold leftovers. And Ethan's response to my hurt feelings was always indifferent. Jade has stomach problems. She ate first. The food is just a little cold. Still tastes fine. Stop making a fuss. Stop making a fuss. When a pipe burst in my apartment and left the whole place flooded, I called him. He said the same thing. I don't have time to help you with that. Find a repairman yourself. Stop making a fuss. So I washed the curtains myself. Changed light bulbs myself. Slowly learning not to depend on him. But with Jade he showed a completely different face. You don't need to be so independent as a woman. If you need anything from now on, I'll help you. You live so close to Vienna anyway, it's no trouble. I didn't understand why the same kind of help was considered making a fuss when I was his girlfriend, but no trouble when it came to Jade. I swallowed the bitterness in my heart and messaged Ethan. You too enjoy. I have things to do. It took him a long time to reply, throwing another tantrum. Vienna Winters, how old are you? Stop being childish. I had thrown tantrums before. Last winter I had a fever of 102 degrees. I was shivering all over and called him to bring me medicine. But he said he was at Jade's place. Jade had menstrual cramps and couldn't get out of bed, so he went to rub her stomach. I said I was suffering too. He was silent for 2 seconds before saying, You've always had a strong constitution, haven't you? How bad could it be? Just buy some ibuprofen. That was the first time I felt I couldn't take it anymore. He was my boyfriend, yet I could never be his priority. I asked him for a breakup, but he didn't say a word, just blocked me first. He knew I loved him too much, I was too dependent on him, so he let me cry for 2 days, let me cry myself dry. Then he had Jade invite me out to dinner. I pathetically chose to reconcile. After that, I never threw tantrums again. But this time was different. I wasn't throwing a tantrum. I was serious. The movers went in and out, and the things in my apartment decreased piece by piece. Only then did I realize that after 7 years of dating, there was almost nothing of Ethan's in my home. A pair of dusty slippers, a cup he'd used once, I couldn't find a third item. Even the slippers and cup were things I had bought. He had never given me any proper gifts. When Jade moved, he brought her a housewarming present. On Jade's birthday, he prepared a large bouquet of her favorite white roses. But to me, he always said, "Those formalistic things are meaningless. When two people live together, it's better to be practical." I had questioned him, expressed my dissatisfaction. He said, "I give your best friend gifts to make you look good, don't I?" I laughed bitterly at myself. My phone buzzed. Mom was calling. "Hello, Vienna, honey. How did things go with you and Ethan discussing the wedding?" Not long ago, Ethan and I had met with both our parents. Both families were very satisfied. When it came time to set the wedding date, Ethan said his career was in an upward phase and there was no rush to get married. At the time, though disappointed, I still understood his work pressure. But now I was only grateful. A man who couldn't even remember where my door was. After marriage, would I have to wait alone in an empty house forever? "Mom, we're not getting married. I'm planning to break up." Mom's voice immediately became tense. "Why? Did he wrong you somehow?" "No. I just suddenly feel we're not compatible." On the other end of the line, Mom was clearly silent for a moment. After all, everyone knew I had loved Ethan Lucas for a full 7 years. How deep 7 years of feelings ran. Mom knew. Jade knew too. I was the one who pursued Ethan first. To get close to him, I listened to his favorite bands, read books in his field, even secretly joined the same gym just to run into him. After graduation, he signed with a company in New York. Without a second thought, I gave up the job my professor had lined up for me and followed him with my suitcase. Mom was so angry she didn't speak to me for 3 days. But I only said, "Mom, if I miss him, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Back then, Jade had chided me in frustration. "Vienna Winters, you're going to ruin yourself over this man." Jade and I had been best friends for 10 years. She had long since become as important to me as family. But no one expected that now she would enjoy my boyfriend's care without a second thought, completely disregarding my feelings. Looking at Jade's newly posted romantic dinner on social media, my eyes stung. The video was tagged at that restaurant I had researched so thoroughly. Flickering candlelight, exquisite dishes, pleasant piano music in the background. But every time I invited Ethan to go there with me, he always said, "We're about to get married. Can you be a little more frugal? Spending thousands on one meal? Candlelight dinner? We can have that at home." He said it so righteously that I could only swallow my expectations again and again. But now, with one word from Jade saying she wanted it, he took her to that restaurant I had longed for. When the last item was moved, I collapsed exhausted on the sofa. The last time I moved, I called Ethan and he said he was too busy with work and told me to find someone myself. To save money, I could only grit my teeth and move everything myself. By the end, I was so exhausted that my chronic back problem flared up, forcing me to rest in bed for 2 days. But when Jade moved, Ethan specifically took time off work. "Moving is so exhausting. Your best friend is single. We should help her out." I watched him bustling about, sweat soaking his hair, and felt he was utterly unfamiliar. So he wasn't incapable of helping someone move. He just couldn't spare a single day off for me. While I was organizing things, my phone exploded with calls. Ethan was calling. "Vienna Winters, open the door. You even changed the password? What's that supposed to mean?" I was silent for a moment before speaking. "It doesn't mean anything. Ethan Lucas, let's break up." But the person on the other end acted as if he hadn't heard me. His voice was suppressing anger. "Jade remembered you wanted to eat at that restaurant. You didn't come, but she specially got takeout for you. And what do? You change the password and won't even open the door when I knock. Vienna Winters, stop being so unreasonable." I wasn't sure if he hadn't heard me say we should break up or if he was so used to dismissing my requests for a breakup as just another unreasonable tantrum. I was about to repeat myself when he had already hung up. I laughed bitterly at myself. My fault. I had loved Ethan Lucas too openly, too publicly. Even he himself didn't believe I would leave him. The next day when I went to the mall to buy things for my new place, I turned around a shelf and ran straight into 2 people. Ethan was carrying shopping bags large and small. Jade was walking beside him. The smiles on both their faces stiffened the moment they saw me. Vienna. Don't misunderstand. Ethan is just helping me buy things. Worried I couldn't carry them alone. Jade explained while trying to reach for my hand. But Ethan yanked her back. Why explain to her? She hasn't even apologized for yesterday. Jade, you spoil her too much. That's why she's so ungrateful. Jade looked at me with concern, but still obediently followed Ethan to the checkout counter. Watching their backs, my heart felt like it had a gaping hole. Ethan never accompanied me shopping. He said shopping was too tiring, too troublesome. If you need something, just order delivery. Why go through all that trouble yourself? But now he was carrying bags large and small for Jade without complaint. Outside the mall, Ethan loaded everything into the trunk. Jade had already gotten into the passenger seat and rolled down the window to wave at me. Ethan naturally said, "Get in. I'll drive you both home." Seeing my eyes land on the girlfriend's exclusive seat sticker on the passenger side, he frowned somewhat impatiently. Jade hurt her back at the gym recently. The passenger seat has more space. You sit in the back for now. Look at that. He remembered all of Jade's habits. He remembered her bad back. He remembered her menstrual cramps, but he couldn't remember the old injury I got from moving heavy boxes. My nose stung. I forced myself to speak. No thanks, it's not on my way. Jade reached to unbuckle her seatbelt. Vienna, why are you being like this? Don't you want me in the passenger seat? I'll get out right now. But Ethan pressed her hand down first and sneered. If it's not on your way, forget it. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, the car started and drove away from me. With me, Ethan never seemed to have much patience. A few days later, Ethan sent me an address again. My mom invited you to dinner to discuss the wedding. I typed and deleted in the message box, hesitating for a long time before finally replying with a simple, okay. Even if I had decided to break up, I should give the older generation an explanation in person. After all, after 7 years together, Ethan's mother had been relatively good to me. When I walked into the private dining room, Mrs. Lucas was already there. I exchanged pleasantries with her. Only then did Ethan arrive late with Jade. Mom, Jade works at the company next to mine. She's also Vienna's good friend. This restaurant is close to the office, so I brought her along. Mrs. Lucas cleared her throat lightly, her expression somewhat unpleasant. But Ethan acted as if he didn't notice and directly picked up the menu to start ordering. Everything he ordered was Jade's favorite dishes. He and Jade both loved spicy food, but I couldn't handle it. Every time the three of us ate Mexican food together, they would enjoy the peppers with relish while I could barely take 2 bites before coughing uncontrollably. Ethan, don't order so many spicy dishes. Mrs. Lucas frowned and looked at me. Only then did Ethan seem to remember saying casually, then let's get this almond pudding. Vienna likes sweet things. Bitterness welled up in my heart. After ordering everything, he finally deigned to consider my taste as an afterthought. Ethan. Jade looked somewhat troubled, glancing between Ethan and me. Vienna is allergic to nuts. Reminded by someone else, Ethan finally showed some panic, quickly flipping through the menu. Oh, then we'll change it. How about? No need to bother. I stood up and interrupted him. How ridiculous. 7 years, yet not enough time for him to learn my tastes. Even my dietary restrictions had to be pointed out by someone else. I looked apologetically at Mrs. Lucas and spoke softly. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lucas. I won't be staying for dinner. Ethan Lucas and I have already broken up. After saying this, I turned and left the private room. Ethan didn't chase after me. It wasn't until evening that Ethan finally showed up at my old apartment door. He rang the doorbell over and over, but no one answered. Impatience had just begun to show on his face when a neighbor stuck their head out. Stop knocking. This is an empty unit. The woman who lived here moved out last week. Ethan's expression froze. What do you mean she moved out? The neighbor looked him up and down. She hired movers days ago. Cleared everything out. Then the door slammed shut. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt something unfamiliar settle heavily in his chest. Empty. He immediately pulled out his phone and called me again. Still blocked. His jaw tightened. She's really throwing a fit this time. But even as he said it, his eyes unconsciously drifted to the dark apartment door again. No warm light leaked from beneath it anymore. No slippers outside. No little cactus I kept by the entrance. Nothing. Everything that belonged to Vienna Winters had vanished completely. Meanwhile, upstairs, Jade walked over carefully. Ethan, maybe Vienna's just angry. Give her a few days. Ethan pressed his lips together irritably. She's the one overreacting. But his voice sounded less certain than before. Jade gently tugged his sleeve. Forget it for tonight. Come upstairs first. Normally, Ethan would have followed without thinking. But this time he suddenly remembered something. The last time Vienna got angry and asked for a breakup, she cried for 2 days straight before coming back herself. But now, she hadn't cried. She hadn't called. She hadn't even argued with him. An inexplicable panic began spreading through his chest. Upstairs, Jade poured him water while softly comforting him. Vienna loves you so much. She won't really leave. Ethan subconsciously nodded. Yes, Vienna loved him desperately. Everyone knew that. How could she possibly leave him? Yet that night, for the first time in 7 years, nobody texted him good night. The next morning, Ethan woke unusually early. Out of habit, he opened our chat window. Empty. No, did you eat breakfast? No reminders about meetings. No weather updates telling him to bring an umbrella. His brows slowly furrowed. Only then did he realize how much of his life had quietly been handled by me. His coffee capsules were always restocked before they ran out. His wrinkled shirt somehow always became clean and ironed. Even the documents he constantly forgot were always neatly prepared in his briefcase because I reminded him beforehand. But today, nothing. At the office, Ethan was distracted the entire morning. During a meeting, his assistant nervously whispered, "Mr. Lucas, the client presentation file." Only then did Ethan realize he had forgotten the materials at home. His expression darkened instantly. In the past, Vienna would never let something like this happen. At noon, Jade came over carrying lunch. "Ethan, you skipped breakfast again, didn't you?" She smiled sweetly while opening the containers. But the moment Ethan tasted the food, he frowned. Too spicy. He suddenly remembered every meal I'd quietly adjusted to his tastes over the years. Even when I couldn't eat spicy food, I still learned recipes he liked. Meanwhile, Jade only cooked according to her own preferences. Seeing him stop eating, Jade carefully asked, "What's wrong?" Ethan put down the chopsticks. "Nothing." But for some reason, he suddenly had no appetite anymore. That evening, Ethan drove unconsciously toward my old company building. He waited downstairs for nearly 2 hours before finally seeing one of my coworkers. "Vienna." The coworker looked surprised. "She resigned last week." Ethan's face changed. "Resigned?" "Yeah. Didn't she tell you?" "She said she was moving to Boston for work." For several seconds, Ethan stood completely still. Boston? A city several hours away. Far enough that she truly intended to cut him out of her life. For the first time, genuine panic appeared on his face. He immediately called Jade. "Did Vienna tell you where she moved?" There was a brief pause on the other end. "No." But Jade's fingers tightened unconsciously around her phone. Of course she knew. I had told her everything. Including how I cried alone after Ethan abandoned me over and over again. Including how I stayed awake all night after seeing their photos together. Including how exhausted I was. But Jade never stopped him. Because she enjoyed it too much. Enjoyed Ethan's care. Enjoyed being prioritized. Enjoyed stealing the affection that belonged to someone else. That night, Ethan drove around New York like a madman. He searched every place I might go. The bookstore I liked. The Riverside Park. Even the small dessert shop I used to drag him to. But nowhere had Vienna Winters. Only then did Ethan finally realize. The girl who had chased after him for 7 years. Had truly disappeared. And once that realization settled in, the memories he used to ignore began surfacing uncontrollably. Vienna standing outside his office in the snow holding hot coffee. Vienna falling asleep waiting for him with the lights on. Vienna smiling after receiving nothing more than a cheap roadside flower because it came from him. He used to think she would always stay. No matter how carelessly he treated her. No matter how much he neglected her. She would always come back. But this time, she didn't. 3 months later. Boston. I had just finished a client meeting when my coworker bumped my shoulder excitedly. Vienna, that investor guy has been waiting downstairs forever. I looked down through the glass window, then froze. Ethan stood outside the building. He looked thinner than before. More exhausted too. Gone was the cold composure he used to carry so effortlessly. The moment he saw me, his eyes immediately reddened slightly. He walked toward me quickly. Vienna. I calmly stepped back. That tiny movement made his face pale instantly. I finally found you. His voice was hoarse. I know I was wrong. I know I neglected you. I know I made you suffer. Can you come back? I looked at him quietly, then suddenly laughed softly. Come back? Back to what? Back to watching my boyfriend prioritize another woman again and again? Back to begging for scraps of affection? Back to convincing myself to accept pain in the name of love? I shook my head gently. Ethan, you didn't lose me because of Jade. You lost me because every single time you had to choose between me and someone else. You never chose me. His entire body stiffened. My voice remained calm. I loved you for 7 years. But I'm tired now. Then I walked past him. For the first time ever. I didn't look back. And Ethan Lucas finally understood too late. The person who loved more deeply is not the one who loses. The one who fails to cherish that love is. After I left, Ethan and Jade ended up together almost naturally. No confession. No romance. One day she was sitting in his passenger seat. The next day she had a toothbrush in his apartment. At first Ethan thought maybe this was what he wanted all along. Jade was cheerful, soft-spoken, dependent. Unlike Vienna, she always needed him for something. Ethan, can you help me open this jar? Ethan, the Wi-Fi isn't working. Ethan, my stomach hurts. Ethan, I don't want to go grocery shopping alone. For years, he had been conditioned to respond to her immediately. So he did. At the beginning, Jade acted sweet and considerate. She leaned on him constantly, praised him constantly, made him feel needed. But slowly something started changing. Or maybe, something started becoming obvious. One night, Ethan got home after a 12-hour shift and found Jade sitting cross-legged on the couch pouting. What happened now? You forgot today was our 1-month anniversary. Ethan stared blankly. 1 month? You seriously forgot? She immediately started tearing up. If Vienna were here, you'd definitely remember. The words slipped out before she could stop them. The entire apartment went silent. Ethan's expression instantly darkened. Because the truth was, when he was with me, he never remembered anniversaries. Not because he couldn't, because he never cared enough to. But now hearing Jade compare herself to me made an uncomfortable irritation crawl through him. That night Jade sulked for hours. Ethan coaxed her, bought cake, ordered flowers, apologized repeatedly. By the time she finally smiled again, he felt strangely exhausted. And that exhaustion only grew worse afterward. Because Jade truly depended on him for everything. First it felt flattering. Then it became suffocating. One morning, Ethan was rushing to work when Jade suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Wait, can you help me dry my hair first? What? You dry it better than me. Ethan looked at the clock. He was already late. But Jade was already handing him the hairdryer with a pout. Another time, he was in the middle of an important meeting when Jade spam called him 17 times because she saw a cockroach in the kitchen. When he finally rushed home irritated, she immediately burst into tears. You scared me. Why didn't you answer? Ethan suddenly remembered something. Back when Vienna's apartment flooded, she cleaned the entire place herself without bothering him again after he dismissed her. At the time he thought she was mature, independent, convenient. But now, standing in front of Jade's dramatic tears over a bug, he realized something else too. Vienna had never depended on him because she learned she couldn't. That realization sat heavily in his chest. The longer he stayed with Jade, the more unbearable the comparisons became. Because Jade only liked receiving care. But she didn't know how to give it. When Ethan got sick with a fever, Jade panicked uselessly beside the bed. Should I call an ambulance? Do you need CPR? Ethan pressed a hand over his pounding head. It's just a fever. But I don't know what medicine to buy. Her voice sounded genuinely distressed. And suddenly, without warning, he remembered me kneeling beside his couch years ago, wrapping him in blankets, cooking porridge at 2 a.m., checking his temperature every hour because I was afraid his fever would worsen. Back then he barely even thanked me. Now he couldn't stop thinking about it. One evening, Ethan returned home exhausted only to find takeout boxes scattered everywhere. Jade sat on the couch watching TV. "You're back." Ethan loosened his tie tiredly. "You didn't clean up? I waited for you. You waited for me to throw away trash?" Jade looked offended immediately. "Why are you talking to me like that?" Ethan rubbed his forehead. For the first time he understood something painfully clearly. Taking care of someone constantly wasn't romantic, wasn't cute, wasn't attractive. It was tiring, especially when the other person gave nothing back. Meanwhile, memories of Vienna kept appearing everywhere. At the supermarket, he passed the yogurt she used to buy him weekly. At work, nobody reminded him to eat on time anymore. When he opened his closet, the shirts were wrinkled because nobody secretly ironed them overnight. His apartment slowly became messier, colder, emptier. One night, Jade wrapped herself around his arm while scrolling social media. "Ethan, look at this couple resort in Greece. Let's go there." He barely responded, because his eyes had landed on a photo someone else posted. In the background of a company event in Boston, Vienna Winters was smiling, brightly, freely, healthier than before. And beside her stood a tall man holding her coat naturally while talking to her. Ethan's breathing stopped. Jade noticed immediately. "What are you looking at?" He locked the screen instantly. "Nothing." But the rest of the night he couldn't focus on a single word Jade said. Because for the first time in years, Vienna looked happy without him. Truly happy. Not exhausted. Not anxious. Not desperately trying to earn love. Just happy. And that realization hurt more than any breakup ever could. Weeks later, Ethan and Jade had their first massive fight. Or rather, their first honest fight. Jade cried while throwing a pillow at him. "You've been distant for months. You regret being with me, don't you?" Ethan stayed silent. That silence was answer enough. Jade's tears fell harder. "You're still thinking about Vienna." Finally, Ethan spoke hoarsely. "I can't help it." Because once he experienced what it was like to constantly pour energy into someone who only took and took, he finally understood what I had endured. For 7 whole years. And the cruelest part was this. Even after realizing everything, he still couldn't get me back.